Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 2022, the very first show of 2022, and the NORA Winners Series of Webcast, which we've been running since the NORA's event, the National Online Recruitment Awards, were held on the 10th of November. As people who have been watching the show before will know, and if you're new to us, I'll let you know now, the reason we have these shows is so that we can dig a little bit deeper, we can see beneath the surface, we can peek behind the curtains, if you like, of the organisations which have been lucky enough to win a NORA's trophy and be marked out as the measure of excellence in online recruitment. Today we have a very, very special guest, the winner of the Best Innovation in Online Recruitment Award. I'm looking to click the right button here. The winners of the Best Innovation Award for the NORAs for 2021. My very special guest is Helen Cooke. Helen, I'm going to invite onto screen right now. Helen, if you are there, let's just bring you up. Good afternoon, Helen. How the devil are you?
Stephen. Lovely to be with you. Thank you.
Great to have you on. It's a real treat, I have to say. Every year in the NORAs, we have obviously various awards for employers and job boards and publications and recruitment agencies. But the Innovation Award is the one where we look for something special. We look for something being done in a different way, a novel approach to a problem or an issue. It might be a technological solution. It might be a new way of doing things. It might be an entirely new website that comes at things from a different angle. And I think MyPlus Students Club ticks several of those boxes, and amongst the judges was universally praised for what you're doing and how you're going about it. So to begin with, for people who aren't entirely up to speed on MyPlus, can you give us a little bit of background to MyPlus, how it came about, and perhaps your own background as well, please?
Yeah, of course. So our mission at MyPlus is to ensure that having a disability doesn't prevent anyone from having the career that they want to have. And for the last 16 years now, we've worked with employers, we've worked with individuals, and we've worked with universities to make that a reality. And the approach that we take is very much business as usual. I think that when we look at the statistics around disability, 15% of students in UK universities have a disability, around 19% of the working age population. If we're serious about talent, this has to be business as usual. It's no longer good enough to bring 1 or 2 people in a year and pat ourselves on the back and think we're doing a good thing. Yeah. And it's something that I'm particularly passionate about. I'm a wheelchair user. I had a spinal tumour as a baby, and I have been fortunate enough to have had an enjoyable career since I graduated many years ago. So I started my graduate life, my career with Marks and Spencer's on their graduate training programme. And then after 3.5 years, I moved to Mars and the wonderful world of chocolate, where I moved into HR and recruitment and student recruitment. And as I said, I had particularly an amazing time at Mars. And I'm a great believer that, our career, our work is not just about finances. It's about our contribution to society. It's our self-esteem. It's our self-development. And we shouldn't be excluding anyone for any reason, particularly not a disability.
Yeah. So there are, of course, a whole spectrum of what we might term as disabilities, from things that might not get in the way of your job and career and plans to things that pose real challenges. Do you have a demarcation line, if you like, where you would say, well, this is what we're talking about in terms of a disability, or are you looking at that full spectrum?
We're looking at the full spectrum. So, the legal definition talks about physical and mental impairments, but actually we're talking about physical, mental, sensory, poor mental health, learning, aggressive. Really, it's anything that's going to, I guess, impact our day-to-day activitities. And the advice, we're not necessarily giving specific advice to those that have dyslexia or to those that have autism. You will find that on the website, particularly in some of the stories. But this is about more general advice about how you manage your disability through the recruitment process into the workplace.
So, given your experience with M&S and Mars and in HR, then that has informed your view of job seekers and candidates in the workplace and people looking to build a career where they have that extra challenge where wherever they go, whatever they do, it's a part of their everyday experience in work.
Sorry, say.
So just saying, your experience with challenges that you've had, but with organisations like Mars and M&S, your experience brings that knowledge to bear on what you've brought to MyPlus. I think you mentioned before that people with a disability, they have, if you like, an extra superpower on top of the skills. So when they come to a role or an organisation, they bring that bit extra with them that you might not see in what we might otherwise call regular candidates.
Yeah, so I think we can look at this sort of in two ways. We look at it from the individual. I always say job seekers, and from our research, look for jobs in the same way as their non-disabled counterparts.
Yeah.
And they have the same questions. So I want to know about you as an employer, about your culture, about your opportunities, about your training, your benefits, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But on top of that, as a result of my disability, potentially I have another whole swathe of questions.
Yeah.
I'm going to be really concerned to tell you about my disability. We use this horrible word disclosure, and I'm afraid of discrimination. I think in this very competitive world, I would feel that by asking for an adjustment, I'm going to be a hassle to you. I fear how you're going to judge me, because let's face it, when we talk about disability, we often think about the skills that people, the things that people can't do or can no longer do or going to find it difficult to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And therefore, as a job seeker, all of this is going around in my head, and I need the employer to answer these concerns and to have conversations with me. But from the employer's point of view, I think disability has very much been in the poor relation when it comes to diversity. I think we're afraid of it. We don't always know what to say and what to do. This is the strand of diversity that potentially we have to do something. We have to put an adjustment in place. And as an employer, we see past that disability. Now, I always think I got very lucky. I got very lucky with Marks and Spencer, because both the first round and the assessment centre, they saw past the wheelchair and they saw me, and they saw somebody who did have a good CV, who'd been involved in school life and university life and had something about me. And I think that that's what I want the individual to see, to recognise their plus. This is the whole premise of who we are. I always say I don't think I'm any more special than anyone else because of my disability, but I think it's given me something extra. And those are the skills and the strengths that I've had to develop to manage my disability in a world that's not always geared up for it and not always kind. When there's not access, when the lifts are broken, when people are, parking in accessible bays when they shouldn't. There's quite a lot on the news at the moment about parking on pavements, and that's just me in a wheelchair. That's not people who are dealing with, the anxiety of travelling or all sorts of different skills. But as a result of those challenges, I've developed, I guess, resilience and determination and problem solving. People skills. How long is the list? And when we look at what an employer often is looking to recruit, those are those skills, and that's what we want the individual to do, is to recognise their skills and strengths, and we want the employer to see past the disability to these as well.
And recognise their additional skills and abilities.
Absolutely, yeah.
So not all disabilities are visible or obvious. Someone might present as the same as the person they're standing right next to, but they will have different challenges. Again, and I'm saying I imagine a lot because I don't know for sure, because I'm not in the shoes of someone with that experience. But I imagine that the point at which you reveal what your disability might be is a big concern for someone who's thinking, do I say on my CV I use a wheelchair? Do I say in my CV that I'm partially sighted, or that I have problems with hearing, or even that I'm colorblind? And that might seem in the scope of things, relatively trivial, but at some point in the process, it's going to come out, or it's going to come out once you start the job. And if you were differently abled, are you thinking, am I going to be in trouble when I'm found out? Should I say it up front? Should I keep it back? We talk about D&I in terms of diversity hiring. Should people make it obvious or not obvious that they have a different background. We see anonymizing CVs where someone with a foreign sounding name might be anonymized so that bias doesn't come into it. But there will be bias, of course, when thinking about someone who is applying for a role and they have a disability. Sorry, I'm yakking too much here, but my question is how do you advise people to talk about their disability as part of the application process?
This is a conversation, Stephen, we could have all afternoon. All these subjects, I said, of disclosure, which isn't a helpful term, and declaration, use either of those.
Sounds like owning up to something.
Yeah, and if I go back, I remember applying for graduate jobs, and one of the forms asked me, do you consider yourself to have a disability? Which I think is a really stupid question. And I'm not in denial. As I said, I've always been in a chair. But I don't think it's the most important thing, most interesting thing about me. And it's not how I would normally introduce myself. I did today for the purpose of what we're talking about. My parents didn't say we've got, 2 daughters and one who's disabled. And suddenly I'm being asked this question by a company that I don't know, and it's very personal. And they don't tell me why I'm being asked, what they're going to do with this information, or the confidentiality around it. Now, I always say it's not for me. Oh, that's it. And I remember saying to Mum, what do I do? And she said, well, you're not disabled then. So you don't consider yourself to be. And then I said, but then I've lied. And then I will walk up to my interview, because it's all face to face. And I've been dishonest. So now I always say that my job is not to tell a candidate what you should do. But before you make a decision, I want you to make an educated decision, and I want you to know what the benefits of being open are, and I want you to know what the consequences aren't. And for me, the benefits of being open are you will get the support that you need during the recruitment process. There is no point spending all this time applying for jobs to potentially hit a barrier. Nobody intentionally has barriers in their recruitment process because you haven't asked for extra time or larger font or an interpreter, or you're worrying because you've got to the building and it's not accessible for you. And you're potentially going to be rejected for a role that you're more than capable of doing. And that, for me, is what you need to think about. And, I remember looking around when I was at Mars and before I set the business up, and it was a recruitment consultant, and he offered me an interview, and I told him I was in a chair, and suddenly this interview didn't happen. And I kind of let it go. But that said to me, I never had anything on my CV that said I had a disability, because I wanted it 100% on merit. I didn't want favourable treatment, and I didn't want discrimination. But once I'd been offered the interview, I would always say something. One, because I need access, and secondly, because I don't want that shock for the interviewer, who potentially is not expecting me to turn up in a wheelchair and is going to concentrate on that rather than interviewing me for the job.
So if you disclose this early on, the danger is that you could be excluded early on before showing how much of an asset you could be to the organization. And if you leave it till later, the gamble is that they'll see how amazing you are, and then say, well, you're so amazing, it doesn't matter that you're in a chair.
And I think what I would say is that bad news travels better than good news. And I think what I call the intelligent organizations out there recognize that talent comes in all shapes and sizes and formats, and not necessarily disabled. And I would like to think that discrimination is very easy to play the discrimination card. And I would always say to candidates, hang on a minute, let's just think about, is there a better candidate than you? It's not about lowering standards to bring you in.
For everyone applying for a job, there's an element of ego and pride and wanting to achieve the job on merits that are comparable with anyone else who's applying for the job. But of course, at the same time, some people are thinking, someone else might be better than me for the job, but I still want to get the job, so I'll be better in the interview. So everyone tries to use whatever they have as an advantage because they want the job. And they want the job over anyone else, regardless of whether anyone else is better for the job or not. And now, contrary to that, employers, they always want to hire the most appropriate person for the role. And I suppose it's the case that the best advice in today's environment is advice to employers on how to be more open, how to be more welcoming, how to state their case at the beginning. We welcome people of all abilities to come and work in this role. If this role requires that you have certain physical abilities, then they should say that up front, so you know that this could or might not include you. So in terms of educating employers on how they can go about things, to what extent does MyPlus get involved there?
Well, that's very much how we started, was very much educating employers, sort of helping them to understand and navigate and to attract, recruit, retain. And then we came on to actually realizing that we needed to provide the advice and support and raise the expectations and motivations of people to apply for the roles.
Yeah.
But I think with employers, anyone can say we're an equal opportunities employer. That one-liner doesn't mean a thing. Everybody sticks it in. We have to bring that to life, and we have to show what we mean. And one of the most effective ways is role models. We're talking about, this is me, this is how I manage my disability in the company. All levels, throughout the business. Disability isn't just those in the students or the middle management, it's everybody. We need to talk about the support that I guess, why disability is important to us, why we want to be an inclusive employer, how we support people, how you access that support. We need to talk about it. And that's what the Students Club allows employers to do. It allows them to showcase, to bring to life them as a disability employer. Now, the website was originally launched in 2013, and we had employer profiles, and then we looked at them a couple of years later and said, oh, the information on here is no different to the information on, any of the other student websites, the Rate My Placements or Target Jobs or Milkground. So actually what we went back and challenged them to do is to say, this is your disability information. This is where you can talk about you as a disability confident employer. And you can profile your people, and you can play your videos, and you can talk about your networks and showcase your awards, and it's all in one place.
Talking about showcasing in videos, a friend of mine told me that in a chair that whenever there was a video being filmed or a photograph being taken, that they had to ensure that the guy in the wheelchair was prominently positioned so that people could see. And there's an element of tokenism. If you were the only person in an office, in a chair, or the only, in the same way as if you were the only black person in a company, then when they're doing the company photographs or videos, it's good to show the diversity in an organization, but you can feel as if you're a bit of a prop if you're the only one. And if an organization wants to show that they are flexible and open and welcoming to people with different abilities, then being able to, if they're going to have the company videos, then being able to show a fuller range of people in the shots.
I think this is a really interesting one. I think imagery, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And I was asked to be, this is going back a number of years, both in the M&S graduate brochure and the Mars one. And I decided to do them because actually both employers were very good to me. I don't think they're the most inclusive. I don't think they're necessarily the most proactive. We're working with Mars now, but they were very good at looking after their own, and they were very good to me. Equally, I had a friend who worked for a different employer who chose not to be in their brochure because I think it was a university actually. She hadn't had that experience. And for me, this is very similar with using disabled actors in advertising. It's so easy to go to an advertising agency and to pick your visibly disabled actor and to say, aren't we doing well? But that doesn't reflect your employee population at all. And that's that grates me. If get your own house in order before you start putting, that's easy. That for me is lazy.
Yeah. Could we turn to the website? Let me just, if it's okay with you, I'd like to share your website, because I'd like to look at some of the areas in which. So obviously, the award that you won, Best Innovation, is fantastic and fabulous. But when looking at the website, what's the key message that you're looking for job seekers to be hit as soon as they come to the site? What's the key thing that you want to entice them to go and find out more?
Well, I think what we wanted them to look at versus what they want to look at is,
of course,
two different things. What they want to know is the employers. That's where they go to. They want to know the disability and confident employers, and then they'll go to the jobs that our employers advertise. So why don't we go to one of our, I don't know whether you're logged in or not, you can do this, go to one of our sponsors. So if we go to who we work with,
I'm not logged in right now.
Don't worry. Well, you probably should be able to still do it. But go to who we work with at the top there, and then we go to
on employers.
No, the last tab on the.
Oh yeah.
Who we work with, and then we'll go down to JP Morgan, who are one of our sponsors, along with EY and.
Let's just see.
Here we go. You've gone past it. There
we go.
So we need to join, which is about putting our email address in. But once we've gone on to there, you will then see information about JP Morgan, about us, but it's all disability and diversity.
Of course, I understand. Yeah.
You will see their people. You will see how they support disabled individuals. You'll see recruitment advice. So I think that's a key area, and I think the other one is the advice and resources. If you go onto there, if you click on advice and resources at the top, and we
the career guides,
guides and templates and blogs, and then if you go up again on the left hand side of the page, sort of the categories of what people are looking for about disability adjustments and applying. Because what I found was that when I went onto other careers websites, and this is going back a few years, when I wanted information about disability, there was this one-liner saying the employer has a duty to make reasonable adjustments for you. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. That doesn't tell me how to positively position my disability. It doesn't tell me how to request the support I need. Tell me any of that. So that was the advice and resources. And then, as you can see here, what we give our employers the opportunity to do is to showcase, bring to life, as I said, some of their employees. So I'm going to talk about Edward. Edward's a really amazing young man who I met as a student. He's profoundly deaf. He communicates with through an interpreter, now with PwC. And actually, for anyone who's profoundly deaf, thinking, how's this going to work for me? Actually, hearing Edward's story, hopefully, will allay their fears, build their confidence, and dare I say, inspire them. I don't like that word overused, to realise their career potential and apply to these companies.
Yeah, I when you say inspire, I really like the idea of inspiring people, because if someone with a similar disability is able to show what they were able to achieve, then people will know, well, that's doable, that's possible. If he can do it, then I can do it. If he can do it, then it can be done. And there might be challenges and difficulties to get there, but one way or another, it's doable. So in terms of inspiration, I really like that sort of thing. But
I think in that context, it's absolutely right. It's when people say to me, Helen, you're an inspiration. And I think, well, what have I inspired you to do? That's when we overuse it with disabled people. Being disabled doesn't inspire you to do anything. Yeah,
when you talk about inspiration in that point, from that perspective, it can feel like a pat in the head. And you think, well, I'm not here to inspire you, but if you feel inspired, that's a great thing. One thing actually that Edward mentioned there was COVID-19 and how that's affected his work experience. When it comes to what we've seen over the past 20 months, people who are either getting into careers or who are already in their first job, how has COVID manifested itself, or what would be the more obvious things that fully able-bodied people wouldn't appreciate for someone with disabilities and from a career point of view?
I think, I mean, again, it's impacted everyone differently. For some people with disabilities, COVID-19 will have impacted the support that they've had, the personal support, personal assistance, perhaps medication, hospital appointments, and therefore they may be having greater flare-ups or challenges with their disability than they had, which is going to impact them applying for jobs. And how they're feeling about that. It's not to say that they're not going to be a brilliant candidate, but right now they might be struggling with their health because of that. I think also, for some people, all this remote working has opened doors. Being at home, not having to travel, works for some people, but for other people, this virtual world, including perhaps people on the autistic spectrum, and it can be very difficult, can be very challenging. I thought that it might be more challenging for people with hearing impairments or people who are deaf. And someone said, actually, it works for me because I don't have the noise of an office behind me. So it's horses for courses.
And I know that people with conditions where they might be on immunosuppressants, if someone is immunocompromised in their health, then going anywhere outside of the house is at a time like this is particularly dangerous, which of course that can make big challenges for the call to come back to work when they're in a position where they have to say, well, look, actually it's not safe for me to come back to work right now, or I need different accommodations, and these present whole new challenges for people in HR to try and help with.
And actually for some people, they haven't had, that they go into work and the workplace is really well set up for them. They've had health set it all up, and then they haven't got that at home, in their home office again, which can cause can cause challenges. Absolutely.
So we're talking about inspiration there, and I firstly I would second people who say that you're an inspiration, even if you didn't want that tag yourself. But in terms of inspiring other organizations who are building their recruitment websites and taking inspiration, one thing that we're particularly keen on with the NORAs is that those who are winners, and I can see your trophy just behind your head on the shelf there, companies that win the trophies are examples of best practice or examples of excellence in online recruitment that other organizations can take inspiration from. Not so much copy, but can see what good looks like and good practice and bring that into what they do. So where your site MyPlus is obviously focusing on a particular demographic, I can imagine that on the one hand, you would want other job boards and organizations to be much more disabled friendly for candidates of all abilities. But to an extent, that would take away the specialness, if you like, of your own site. What would you be keener to see happen?
I'm genuinely passionate about people being able to work. As I said, our mission is that disability shouldn't be a barrier. And for me, the more companies that can get on board with this, the better. And actually, we're now working in partnership with some of the other student websites. So Target Jobs, we've been doing some great work with over the last 18 months. Rate My Placement, two in particular. And actually, they've got a great reach, a bigger reach than we've got. We've got the disability information. So for me, the more yeah, we have a specialism. Competition's good in the same way. You've got 1,000,001 job boards out there, keeps us on our toes. Go for different views, get different advice. You know, you'll pick something up from our website, you might pick it up from another disability website. What's key for me is that we normalise this, and actually anybody should go to any website and know that I'm included, and I've got my advice there for me.
Absolutely. So, so when we were looking at the website there, I saw in the top corner professional jobs coming soon. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that and what the next 12 months will hold for MyPlus?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of eating my words. I'm going back on myself. So I've always said that disabled people don't go to disabled job boards, and the Students Club was never set up to be a job board. It was set up to provide advice and guidance, and then it made sense for us to enable our clients to showcase themselves, and therefore it made sense for them to advertise their jobs and events. But over the years we have taken that job board, you know, on and off. So what we are often asked by our clients is, how do we attract professionals? And we didn't have an answer for that. And the students that have been with us for 2013, it was launched with database. We can't help them outside of their first graduate job. So it makes sense to allow our clients to advertise the roles and to provide the jobs, the disability confident companies for our members. Hence the professional job board. That tab literally went up yesterday. We're going out to our clients tomorrow to pilot this. They're going to have free job adverts. So that's going to keep us busy in the first next few months. And then over the next 12 months, we're going to shortly be recruiting a marketing assistant executive for the Students Club. We're really keen to grow our reach in various ways, including the partnerships that we have. And I think the other thing for us is looking at how we present our content. We're very text heavy, and I'm aware of that. We would also, we run webinars. I think there's the opportunity for blogs and vlogs and Q&As and things like that. So that's all in our plan for 2022.
So you would anticipate having more video content?
Yeah, we'd like that. Yeah, and then we can promote that obviously on social media.
Fantastic.
Snippets, so people, you know, snippets. The 90 seconds on disclosing, or 90 seconds on, you know, am I included? You know, what's a disability?
Yeah, but bite size really works online. If you're making entire documentaries, that's a whole different thing. But we've certainly seen that getting messages across in that bite-size format in video is a great way of making a really quick impact and people accessing that information in a way that might be difficult on plain text. I've just noticed that we've gone a little bit over our time. Can I say, Helen, it's been a real pleasure having you as a guest. I want to say congratulations again on winning your award in the NORAs. This year, we've obviously tripped into 2022. This is going to be our 22nd year of the NORAs, and we always hope that winners from previous years come back and are contenders. And as members of the NORA Academy now, you get to vote for the Academy Award for this year as well. So best of luck for this year coming up. Thank you again for joining me this afternoon. Thanks everyone who's watching, whether it be live or on replay, or indeed on any of the social media streams that we've got going out right now. I think we have one more show coming up with Morrison Talent, which we were unable to do before Christmas. So we should have that coming up in the next week or so. But for just now, Helen, I'm going to say thank you very much for joining me, and have a great afternoon. Okay, thank you very much then. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.